The problem of choice, an illustration. It is the conflict between means and ends, including conflict between individuals' goals, which gives rise to an economic problem. In such a situation, the problem arises as to how best to use the resources to achieve the ends. The central problem of an individual as well as for a society is the allocation of scarce means among competing ends. Economic problems for a society do not exist when either human goals are not in conflict or economic resources, means, are so abundant that there is no need to conserve them. However, the real world is not blessed with superabundant resources or harmonious goals. This is true of the most developed countries of the world like USA, Germany, Japan etc., to the most backward countries like Somalia, Ethiopia, Bolivia, Bangladesh, Albania etc. In other words, scarcity is global as well as local, though some societies could be relatively better off than some others, giving the impression that for such societies scarcity does not exist. Hence, every society has to develop a set of institutions to direct the way in which scarce resources are to be allocated. These institutions, which form the society's economic system, would determine what goods are to be produced, how are they to be produced, and who should obtain them. A production possibilities curve, PPC, shows the various combinations of two goods, X1 X2, which the firm can produce using technically most efficient methods of production and allocating resources in an economically efficient manner, with its resources being always fully utilized. It shows, given scarcity of resources and given technology, the maximum output produced of one good, given the output of the other good. It shows how one good can be transformed into another good not physically but via the transfer or shifting of resources from one line of use to another. It shows how food is transformed into clothing or from clothing to food by diverting resources from one use to another. Hence PPC is also called the transformation curve. The technique of PPC can be used to illustrate the various central problems of an economy. The first central problem is the problem of what goods are to be produced by the economy. Let us suppose that two goods are X1, consumer good, and X2, capital good. Following Paul Samuelson, we can say that the economy's PPC describes the society's menu of choice. Since the resources needed to produce X1 and X2 are scarce and limited, hence every society has to make a choice, take a hard decision, whether to use current resources to make more consumer goods, X1, or more capital goods, X2, or seek a proper balance between the two. It is quite possible that if the economy is a developing economy like India, to build up the capital base of the economy it gives more importance to the production of capital goods, X2, where an economy like Japan with a strong capital base, might give more weightage to the production of consumer goods, X1. Similarly, PPC can be used to illustrate the second central problems of an economy, the problem of how to produce. How resources are to be combined to produce the goods, that is the choice of methods of production. However, this cannot be discerned directly from the PPC, we have to go back to the efficiency locus from which PPC is derived. If we assume that X1 is labor-intensive and X2 is capital-intensive, then at point N on India's PPC relatively more of capital goods are produced, and since they require the use of capital-intensive techniques, hence at the product mix N there is preponderance of capital-intensive methods of production. However, it must be noted that for the Japanese PPC A1B1 the choice of N1 represents the dominance of consumer goods, which need not imply the preponderance of labor-intensive methods. Quite the contrary, in a developed economy like Japan consumer goods are normally produced with relatively capital-intensive techniques. Hence PPC can be misleading in indicating the choice of methods of production. The third central problems of an economy is the problem of for whom to produce, the problem of distribution. The PPC can be used to illustrate it but not directly. If we assume that the more unequal the distribution is, the greater will be the share of luxury consumption, like cars, color TVs, refrigerators etc. Luxury consumer goods are more capital-intensive than the basic consumer goods. Hence Indian economy would be operating at point 10 on its PPC. But remember, We tried to justify production at N is the name of India being a developing economy a short while ago. Thus, unless we also specify which capital-intensive goods are shown on vertical axis, we will not be able to see developing, or it is a symptom of very high degree of inequalities in distribution of income. But again, we have to be cautious in interpreting the choice of N1 by the Japanese economy. Yet if one shows a commodity such as bread on horizontal axis and air conditioners on the vertical axis, the choice of production point will clearly indicate the distributional objectives of those who make the production decisions.